News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. It is a rare treat to get Chuck Leavell on the show. Have had the privilege of having him on for years now, and it's been amazing to follow him and to be able to visit with him from time to time. And Chuck Leavell, Rolling Stones keyboardist and musician, keyboardist extraordinaire, and tree man, which we'll get into. Welcome back to the show, man. Welcome back.
Hey, Chris, my friend, how are you? It's wonderful to be with you. It's been a minute, hasn't it?
It sure has. Last time we talked, you were in Tampa doing a sound check for the last tour. And
Yep.
Yeah, and then, so tell me what's going on. I mean, it's kind of easy, but to just, too broad. But tell me this, how was the tour, first of all?
Well, it was just extraordinary. I think we wound up doing 20 shows, which in the scheme of things for us these days is sort of a long tour. The paradigm had been more like 14 or 15. So this was cool, to extend it a little bit. It was just extraordinary, man. It's hard to understand how we can still be doing this. And I've got to, of course, talk a little bit about Charlie. Of course, we still miss Charlie very much, but Charlie Watts would never want to be the reason this band would stop. And Steve Jordan is a fantastic musician.
Yes.
And he had Charlie's blessing, So we're proceeding on as Charlie would want us to. And I think, it's just a feeling of, wow, they still want us to do this. They still want to come. We better be at the top of our game. And, that hopefully we are.
I got to see you in Chicago this time, my hometown. I know that Mick and the boys love Chicago. It seems like it's one of their most favorite places to go in the States. We saw you in Soldier Field, 2 shows that looked sold out to me, and I was with my parents that are Mick's age, and they're not as bright as he is, but it was an amazing show. Tons of verve, vigor, and incredible performance. Now, I swear, I've been watching every tour for years. Not one beat skipped. How is that possible?
I don't know. I think it's so embedded in our DNA now, and we've had, again, with the exception of Steve, replacing Charlie at this juncture, the rest of us have been together for a long, long time now. It's been 42 years for me. Daryl Jones has been there since 94.
Bassist, yep.
Yeah, and Tim Reese and Carl Denson, and of course Bernard Fowler, and now Chanel Haynes. Chanel is kind of new for us, but boy, did she really knock it out.
She was amazing, absolutely. Chuck, what's your best memory of from this tour, and what's your best memory of all with all your 40 years with the Stones?
Oh, man.
It's going to be hard.
Well, no, you mentioned Chicago. It is a special city for this band. We all revere the music that came out of Chicago, Chicago blues, of course. Artists like Howlin' Wolf and Lightning Hopkins, Muddy Waters, and others. So that's certainly a very important city for us, and the fact that we were able to double up and do 2 shows there was great. But I got to also mention the last show that we did, which was in the Ozarks.
Yes, in Missouri. That was incredible. Yeah, tell me about that.
And well, Johnny Morris is a good friend of mine. Johnny Morris is the founder and CEO of Bass Pro Shop.
Yes.
I'm sure most of your audience knows what Bass Pro, and they also run Cabela's now. They both Cabela's and Bass Pro. Johnny's one of the sweetest guys on the planet, I assure you. He's a real, genuine human being. He cares about people. He runs a great company. He loves the outdoors. He's a great environmentalist and conservationist. And he called me up before the tour started, and he said, Chuck, I just want you to know that I've built a new amphitheater in the Ozarks, and it would be my dream to have the Stones play it. And I said, well, Johnny, I don't know if it's possible or not, but I can put you in touch. And I did. And, without going through the ups and downs, the bottom line is that it did work out, and we were able to do it. And what a cool way to finish a tour, in a venue like that. I mean, it was the only thing of its size or nature that we did for the whole tour. Everything was stadiums except for this one show, and it was really a cool way to end the tour.
Chuck Leavell, keyboardist for 40 years with the Rolling Stones and the music director. How have you been lately? I mean, you just wrapped up a Stones tour. Are there more projects coming up for you personally? Because you've worked with Chuck, you've worked with David Gilmour, which we'll get into in a little bit, with Pink Floyd, Eric Clapton, George Harrison, and so many more. So how's it been lately? How have you been lately, and what's coming up next for you?
Well, it was great to get back home to Charlene Woodlands. I know you know that my other life is as a tree farmer. And,
yes.
Reverence for forestry and the outdoors. So, first order of business was to just be at home and check out the woods and be with my wife, Rosie. And by the way, we celebrated 51 years last summer.
Congratulations. What a beautiful story. You met when you were with the Allman Brothers. She was the receptionist, and you guys fell in love, and you inherited a tree farm from her father. I mean, the story is amazing. Go ahead, though. So your downtime, and I hear you got a PBS America's Force with Chuck Leavell special coming up.
Well, and by the way, it was actually her grandmother that left her a parcel of land, and we've been on it ever since, and we've grown it, and just absolutely love what we do here, aside from rock and roll. But anyway, you ask what I've been doing. As you are well aware, we have a documentary called The Tree Man that's been out for a couple of years now, actually. And I've been doing some presentations where we show a 30-minute version, edited version of The Tree Man, and then I take the stage with a moderator to have questions, and allow me to play certain songs, tell certain stories, and that's a lot of fun. It's a fun presentation. It's a little bit different from just doing a solo gig. I get to expound upon the career, etc. So that's been a lot of fun. I've done a good handful of those since the tour. I've got one, actually, you got two of them coming up, one in Baton Rouge and one in upstate New York at Bedford, New York. That's a charity event for Care More, which is a music program that targets young people and helps them with education and music. And the other is a land trust that exists up there. So, those are fun things to do. I've done a few shows with my full band since the tour. So
yes,
a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but also, again, being outdoors and working in the woods. I love doing that. That
is one of the most beautiful things about you, is you have this passion for forestry. I want to talk to you about that with you here in just a second. Can you stand by? I want to talk to you about that and Tree Man, your new documentary that is a must-see. A must-see that I can't wait to tell folks about and where they can watch it. And there's a story with an airline that's involved in too, apparently. So, Chuck Leavell, can you stand by?
I will. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Chuck Leavell, Rolling Stones keyboardist, 40 years plus, among many other things, rock and roll legend, continues to join us here on News Talk 820 WBAP and now on FM at 93.3. Next. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Make that a preset. Chuck Leavell, keyboardist for the Rolling Stones for 40 years plus, has played with Eric Clapton, David Gilmour. He's hung out and had dinner, I think Thanksgiving, if I'm not mistaken, dinner at George Harrison's house years ago, which is just incredible, these stories you've shared with me over the years. Coming up soon, I'll have a PBS America's Force with Chuck Leavell project, but right now, what you need to do, if you have children, get his children's book, The Tree Farmer, because that book is gorgeous. It's beautiful for your child. I read it every flippin' night to my son, who is now 21. Chuck, we're getting old. We're getting old. I know you're a grandparent as well, which is a beautiful thing. Which I got to talk about that with you too. But I read my young son at the time. It was a tiny little lad, and then my daughter when she was of age. The Tree Farmer book for years, and I'm telling you, get that because it's incredible, and it teaches your children about conservation, harvesting the forest, and replanting it in all These things have, sorry, I'm taking your spot here. It's your turn to talk. But that and The Tree Man, an unbelievable must-see thing. It's on Amazon, and it's also on Delta still. Talk to me about Delta and Amazon and The Tree Man.
Well, thanks, Chris. Yes, The Tree Man was available for quite some time on Delta. I think it's recently fallen off, but it'll probably come back on. But it's, again, as you mentioned, on Amazon Prime. It's had such a good run, man. It's been a lot of fun. I've had so many wonderful comments about it. And there's 3 stories involved. One is my career as a musician. One is my career as a conservationist and environmentalist. And the most important, of course, is a love story between my wife, Rose Lane, and I for over 50 years now. So, it was a lot of fun to make. I have to credit my filmmaker, Alan Forrest. He did an amazing job of making a story out of a lot of raw footage. We had a lot of really nice things said by people like Eric and David Gilmour and all the Stones. It was, very, very heartening for me to have. You could imagine when we made this plan, it was like, oh my God, now I've got to go ask these favors of these people I've worked with to see if they're willing to go on camera.
Yes.
And it was an embarrassing thing, but we worked out a thing between Alan and myself, Alan, the filmmaker, where I would, just make the initial ask and then I would get out of the way.
Right.
That worked very well. Then they could say anything they wanted to about me.
Good or bad?
Mostly, yeah, good or bad. We edited out all the bad stuff.
It was most of the film. I'm just kidding.
No, but it was a joy. And really the main reason for me, and I mean this, was just to have some kind of document for future heirs, for my grandchildren.
Yes.
Mainly, and for up the road. It's just nice to have something like that is going to be around for a long time.
And I want to tell you, people need to see this because you'll be transfixed on this because you're going to hear it's interspersed with Mick and Keith and David flippin' Gilmour from Pink Floyd, my second favorite band after the Stones, and Clapton and so many people. So you get this deep rock and roll legends and story talking about you and their interactions with them in more what do you call it, like a back behind the scenes moments. And then you get this beautiful love story you talk about with your wife, which is very special to me. I'm celebrating my 24th year right now. And
congrats.
Thank you, brother. That means everything. And you know it and I know it. We all need that. So, and then the tree farm and the conservation. It's a beautifully done story. So David Gilmour in there. Where have I been, dude? You played with David Gilmour on a tour where you were in Pompeii, and you filled in, if I can say it that way, for Roger Waters in the lyrics, and you were incredible. How did that come together?
Oh, man, it was such an honor. David reached out to me sort of out of the blue. There is a backstory. I'll make it short. In 1984, I was musical director on a live MTV event called Guitar Greats, and David was a part of it. Dickie Betts was a part of it. Link Ray, the famous original guitar riff meister. Lita Ford was on the show, Neil Schon. There was just this litany of guitar players. And that's where I first met David. Well, all these years go by, and Rose Lane is checking the guest book of my website and says, there's a guy here that says he's David Gilmour, and I'm skeptical, of course.
Yes.
But there was an email, and I said, well, I'll email it and see what happens. And sure enough, that resulted in a phone call, and David said, yeah, man, I'm going to do a tour of Europe, and if you're available, I would love to have you. And it just blew my mind. So
yes,
I went over there and started rehearsals in Brighton in England, and we get through all the stuff, his solo stuff, as well as some Pink Floyd material, of course. And we come to the last song, which is Comfortably Numb, and he turns to me and he said, would you like to sing on this? And my first impression was on the choruses, sure, yeah, I'll sing with you. And he said, well, then you take the counterpart. And I was, oh, really?
Wow.
So And I say this in the documentary, but he gave me a nice piece of advice. He said, when you make your delivery, curl your lip a little bit. Meaning give it a little attitude and give it a little snarl.
Okay, yeah.
And I appreciated that very much. So I did my best to do it justice, and it was just a very flattering and fun thing to do.
It was, Chuck, it was phenomenal. I want everybody to just Google Pink Floyd, Chuck Leavell, Pompeii, 2016, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right.
Okay, and my gosh, are you good? But the band, Pompeii is, I mean, remember Live in Pompeii? I'm sure you saw that, like in the 70s they did or whatever it was, or the 60s. It's like, whoa, they're going deep. Going back to Pompeii, and it was an unbelievable moment. What I'm watching on TV, on YouTube or whatever. So I want to talk to you more though. Chuck Leavell, keyboardist, 40 years for the Rolling Stones, and with Gilmour, that's incredible and such. I want to talk to you a little bit more. You've always got great stories from something funny or fascinating behind the scenes with Keith and Mick, and I want to see if you can share something from the past year or two or so since we last talked. Maybe one of each if possible, and then we'll talk about, is there going to be another Stones tour or album possible? People can go, are you kidding me? You never know. Can you stand by for a few more minutes with us, sir?
I will. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The great Chuck Leavell, keyboardist for the Rolling Stones, as I mentioned. And you know what I haven't mentioned? It's been a while, but the Allman Brothers. He was with the Allman Brothers, and that's what really launched him into stardom and success in his career. We'll get into that, too. Coming up next is Chris Crock Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, and now on FM at 93.3. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset, y'all. 800-288-WBAP is our number. Chuck Leavell, keyboardist for the Rolling Stones, keyboardist back in the day for the Allman Brothers. So many different things he's done. Welcome back to the show, Chuck Leavell, and thank you for spending some time with us. Always a treasure. Always a yearn to have you back on. So thank you for having time for us here after the tour.
A pleasure, my friend. Great to be with you.
So you always have some good stories for us, something funny or fascinating behind the scenes with Keith and Mick. Last time it was Mick telling Keith, telling you guys you got to hydrate at the Meadowlands or something, and Keith's like, I did have ice in my glass. So something about the funny or fascinating behind the scenes with Mick and Keith.
Well, man, it's just become a very consistent thing with this band. We go in, we work hard at it, and during the rehearsals, one fun thing in the rehearsals in California was that in the same compound we had Paul McCartney, who stopped by several times.
Nice.
and played little drums for fun while we were there, and also John Mayer, my friend, was working in another studio in the same compound. So it was a lot of fun to have these personalities coming around and interacting with us. We worked hard, man. The rehearsals, we don't take it lightly. We work a good probably 7 hours a day, take the weekends off usually, but I think we touched on something like 80 different songs during the rehearsal period.
Wow.
And of course we had a new record, Hackney Diamonds, to pick out some songs from that to showcase. And I think we wound up doing maybe 4 or 5 during the course of the tour.
Yes.
And they were very well received.
Yes. Great album. Great album.
We were grateful for that. Keith, I'm not sure I should even let people know this, but he got COVID on the first show, before the first show.
Oh.
And he, man, what a champ this guy is. I mean, he plowed through it. It was uncomfortable. It was difficult. It sucked a lot of energy out. But boy, I mean, nobody could have figured out the difference, really.
That's amazing.
And so the first 2 or 3 shows, he got over it, of course, and then from there we were on, rocket fuel, and just really just tore the tour up from that point on. And Mick is so disciplined that he works very, very hard to be able to do what he does. He doesn't just wake up and the day of the show and go out there and start running around. He works at it very, very hard. And his routine and his discipline is a role model for me. I'm telling you, as much time as he spends staying fit and looking after himself and making sure that he can deliver the goods and when the goods need delivering. It's just, it's an amazing thing to watch and to be involved in. And so, when I see all of that going on and I wake up in the hotel room and okay, where's the gym? I'm going.
Yes.
I'm going to keep myself in shape because I want to make sure I can support Mick, I can support Keith, I can support Ronnie to the best of my ability. That's my goal. And I'm never going to waver from that.
Chuck, that's one of the things I was going to ask, and you pretty much answered it. Is Mick the driving force for discipline and wise business practice and this meticulous attention to detail? That's what I've deduced.
Well, we're all survivors, right?
Yeah.
God knows the Keith Richards story is so fascinating
yes.
and amazing. And,
yes.
And, he'll probably outlive all of us.
Yes.
and that's a good thing. But
yeah.
But Keith is also very, very disciplined in his own way, man. Just look at the knowledge that both of these guys, Mick and Keith especially, and Ronnie. I'm not going to leave Ronnie out of this. About the history of studying the blues, studying, like Motown and other genres of music, studying country. Keith was very close to Graham Parsons, and a lot of those country songs come from that idiom. And of course, Mick is a student of all these things, as is Ronnie. And, it takes a lot of listening, a lot of discipline, a lot of practice, a lot of wherewithal, a lot of doing this over and over and over. And then, of course, they go on to write these incredible songs. I have no idea what the number is, Chris, but
right.
It's probably 300 plus and maybe even more of songs that they've written and put out there that we all know and love, right?
Yes.
And so it's just a remarkable partnership to be a part of. It really is. And I cherish every moment that I spend with these guys. I'm always learning from them, and it's a joy to do my best to contribute to what they want to do. So
Chuck Leavell, keyboardist for the Rolling Stones, 40 years plus, also with the Allman Brothers back in the day and so many other great projects, his own band Leavell and others. So a couple of quick questions here. I know we got a limited time, but one of my theories is, as to why I believe Mick and Keith and you guys keep playing when you don't need to. Clearly, Mick and Keith don't need the money, for example, obviously. But to me, it's got to be a drug to them. It's a healthy, real, legal. It's like a drug. I mean, the high of performing in front of such an audience. Is that why the band keeps touring?
Keith Richards once said, I think, very adeptly, Chuck, it's like food to us. It's food. You have to nurture your body. You have to nurture your mind.
Yes.
And that's what music and songwriting and performing is for these guys. It's food. It's not like they have to do it. There's no choice, right?
Got it.
I mean, that's just the way it is. And, Chris, if I may mention, you were so kind to make a reference earlier about a program called America's Forest, and I'd just like to elaborate slightly on that, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
What America's Forest with Chuck Leavell is a 13-part series on PBS, but also available on Prime. These are 30-minute programs that have to do with the art and the practice of forestry, and all things to do with, what trees and forests do for us. And let me just give you a quick, for instance, one of the episodes we did in California, we went to the Fender guitar factory, right?
Yes.
And we discovered how they acquire their wood, how they craft it into these beautiful instruments and so forth. these are the kind of stories that people don't think so much about that have to do with forestry.
Yes.
So I love bringing this information to the general public. And again, it's a PBS series, but also available on Amazon Prime.
That's good to know. And it really complements your children's book way back in the day about the tree farmer.
Well, there you go. And one thing that we haven't touched on, I just had the most amazing engagement in Atlanta at the Fox Theater to celebrate Jimmy Carter's 100th birthday, which is coming up on October 1st.
That's amazing. Tell me about that.
Fantastic?
Yes, Jimmy Carter, because he thankfully is still alive and doing okay, and that's important. The other thing is that he played a big role with you and the Allman Brothers early on, and it's said that the Allman Brothers may have helped get him elected way back when.
Well, it's absolutely true, and we supported his campaign for president and raised a lot of money for him. And we were very, very proud of his administration. We're very, very proud of everything he's done since he's been out of office, and we're certainly proud of him right now. But I want your listeners to know that this will also air on PBS, and that will be on his actual birthday, October the 1st. He will be 100 years old on October the 1st. And just to give you a quick lineup, we had I was honored to play a couple of songs with the band, and we had Eric Church, we had the B-52s, we had India R.A., and just a litany, a wide range of musical talent, and also video clips from every living president, including President Bush, who got a standing ovation with his litany and tribute to President Carter. So you guys got to watch this thing. It's so fun.
Excellent. Absolutely cool. So PBS and Amazon on his 100th birthday.
Well, PBS on the 100th birthday. The Amazon
already there
has to do with my America's Forest program.
Right on. Okay, got it. Thank you very much. Now, Chuck, just to close this off, another Stones tour album possible, you think?
I think very possible. Of course, it's up to the three guys.
Right.
But I think they're looking at possibilities. I don't think they want to stop. Well, I know they don't want to stop. And so as long as they can come up with a plan that makes sense, I think we'll be moving forward.
In fact,
I hope so.
As a music director, which is really profiled in a lengthy, awesome USA Today piece a couple of months ago, you would know that Don't Stop is one of the Stone songs because you're the musical director.
Don't stop, baby. Don't stop.
It's one of my favorite songs. Thank you so much, Chuck Leavell. We cannot wait to talk to you again down the road a little bit. And may you continue to be blessed with your family, your musicians, and everything with the Stones. Thank you for your time, sir.
You're a good man, Chris.
And so are you.
I always enjoy speaking with you, and blessings to all those wonderful folks in Texas.
Amen. Talk to you. Thank you.